What is good, everyone? This is your host, Deanna Kuempel of Label Free Podcast. To live your best life, you must live label free. I'm so excited. I have a guest. His name is Chris Wilson. He is the founder and owner of the Academy of Music and Art. Chris, I love your story. I'm so happy you reached out to me. I was reading your bio. And I'm like, oh, I have to have him on. He's a dynamic individual. Why don't you introduce yourself? Tell the audience a little bit about your background and what got you to where you are today.
Sure. I'm Chris Wilson. My entire life, I always wanted to be a guitarist. I always wanted to do something with music. And I grew up going, suburban Chicago Catholic schools. And it was always like, you can't make a living in music. You can't, it's a fine hobby, but, come on, you have to be practical. And I remember graduating from high school and actually enrolling in business school. And I didn't even, people say, Bill Gates dropped out of business school. The Facebook guy did a couple years. I didn't even make it to the first day. It was like dorm room orientation. And I met all the guys, and you go down to the lounge. Here's a high-rise dorm. I go down to the lounge, and it's the introduction. And everyone's really cool. Everyone's really nice. I thought, wow, these are the people I'm going to be friends with. Yeah. And as we went around the room, each person introduced themselves. I'm Mike, and I'm from Morton Grove, and I'm really into health and fitness and bodybuilding, but I'm going to be an accountant and go work for my family. It's like, oh, okay. The next guy was Ralph, and he was from Elmhurst, and he was really into martial arts, and then he was going to do all the stuff with karate, but he was going to become a trader and go work with his uncle. And it was always this thing where, they're totally stoked, and then here's what I'm going to do with my life. Yeah. And they kind of shrink. And we were 18 or 19 years old, and as we were going around the room, I heard this voice in my head, which I never hear voices. I'm not one of these people who's in the universe. But it was like,
thanks for clarifying. I was getting to get concerned.
I clarify that. I'm not one of those people who's in touch. I hear, I have this. But I was sitting there, and this voice was like, we're not doing this. This is crazy. You're 18 years old, and you're going to, study business and go work for your dad, which isn't a terrible thing, but it wasn't what I wanted to do. I wanted to do something with music. So when it came to me to introduce myself, I changed my story on the spot. I said, my name's Chris, and I'm not going to be here very long because I'm transferring to Berklee College of Music in January. And I hadn't even applied yet.
Wow.
And so I went home Labor Day weekend, and I had my application. I filled it out, mailed it in, had to go back to my high school and get my transcript sent, and then moved to Boston. Had never been to Boston. Never been.
Boston's cool, though.
Yeah, it was cool. I literally got in my car and drove there and found a hotel and found the school and enrolled in Berklee and realized there was a path, there were career path options.
Yeah. So wait, really quick. So what did your parents think of that? So if you were supposed to go work for your dad, I'm sure they weren't too happy.
Well, actually they could see that it wasn't it was something I was really passionate about, really interested in. I practiced 8 hours a day every day, 6 hours. I mean, all my waking hours were spent practicing, learning songs. And so it wasn't like I was doing this in some kind of fantasy where I was going to miraculously be good. I was super hardworking and super diligent. And so I think they saw that, and they saw the fire that I was into it. And it was this isn't just some kind of oh, I want to be a baseball player. Maybe if I think about it, I'll become a baseball player. It was okay, he's actively pursuing this, and he's really working at it. And so I went to Berklee and sort of figured things out, how the music business works, how people, how you can make a living. And when I graduated, I moved back to Chicago, and I started the guitar school in my apartment.
Very cool. Yeah, I was reading that. So you turn your guitar school into this academy that you have now. Yeah. And you have 25 employees, which is awesome. You incorporate music, art, dance, summer camps, and theater. You had over 650 students in last year.
Yeah, it was. It's been really cool. Well, and what happened was when I started teaching guitar, this was 1990. This was when they sort of, if you remember, alternative rock and all that stuff was sort of exploding, and there wasn't anybody really teaching people how to do that. If you were in a band and everything, and there were all these people trying to make records. And so I immediately had this school just because I was the only person doing that stuff, who was knowledgeable, who was even open to it. A lot of the people were maybe a generation earlier where they had an idea of what you had to do, and you have to do this first. And I'm just well, where do you want to go? I'll keep you there. Right. And we'll just figure it out along the way. So everyone has their own path. It's not okay, everyone has to fit on this path. So I took people down whatever path they went. And the building I was living in was you can't run a business out of here. Like clearly, like you're not giving 1 or 2 lessons, you're giving like 60 classes a week.
Wow.
And, yeah. So they said, well, we're not going to kick you out, but like you need to figure something out. So I rented a space from a music shop in like a record store in Hinsdale, Illinois, a western suburb, and because it was sort of centrally located. And from there, the record store closed, and I just rented a space. And then I had to become a company. I hired somebody. I hired another person. I had to learn how to do Yellow Pages ads. I had to learn how to do marketing.
God, Yellow Pages. We don't do Yellow Pages anymore.
But even just to design a Yellow Pages ad, or even like I remember sitting down with my brother Scott and like building my first website, which was terrible. You know, back in whatever website, 1996, they were like AOL homepages. I mean, it was just, I wish I still had it because it was so bad. But it's like I learned how to do websites. I learned how to do marketing. I learned how to do all that stuff. And that was sort of the fun. It's, you have an employee. Well, how do you, well, you actually have to pay them. How does that work? I have to write a budget. And so I sort of learned as I went along, whatever I needed to figure out, I just did. So
how amazing though. I mean, I feel like a lot of people kind of get stuck in the trenches and they get overwhelmed with the idea of having to do all those things that it prevents them from actually going after that which they're passionate about. So kudos to you for doing that, because I think that that's the whole reason for my podcast, to inspire people to go after their passions, go after what makes them happy, because ultimately I think that that's what we all want to be, is just happy at the end of the day. And you have to be happy with yourself. And if you're not happy doing what you're doing on a daily basis, that's definitely not going to make you happy. But anyways, so aside from all that crazy success and turning this into a great academy, your guitar school into a great academy, you've authored 2 books. Tell us about that.
So the first one, I belonged to a network of music studio owners, and it was interesting. It was one of those things, people went into the business because they were passionate about it, not knowing anything about business. And so I, as a child and as a teenager, worked for my dad, so I knew some things about business. Sure. And so I was maybe about 5 or 6 years ahead of some of these people who were just starting out. So they would call me up and go, well, how do you do a website? How do you do it? I noticed you do sales letters. How do you do sales letters? And so as I was doing things, I was just writing things down, and it became a book, over the course of time. And it became a book that I've redone because the industry is completely different now. It's being rewritten. It's music school reinvention, because we really need to reinvent our businesses. But it was literally me just helping people out, coaching them. And it just evolved that way. The second book, which is the one here, The Marketing During Tough Times, COVID hit. And so it's like, okay, we need to turn this around. So I started writing everything down what's everything I could do?
Sure.
And so I sat down and brainstormed for a weekend, and my friend who's a graphic designer said, this is really like a book. This is like an ebook. You should really put this out there for everybody.
So that's recent because of everything.
Yeah. So Marketing During Tough Times came out in, I guess it would have been June, July.
Oh.
The reinvention has been a rewritten version of Music School Transformation, which was sort of the original book that was written about 3 years ago, that was sort of designed to help either maybe you want to start a music school, or maybe you're a piano teacher and you're starting to hire people, you're busy. And so, well, what do I do? I don't understand I have the technical skills. I can give lessons and I can get clients, but I really don't know how to run a business type of thing. So that was the aspect. And now it's like, okay, we can't see people face to face for anything, right? Even this, we're on Zoom. So it became the idea of reinvention, of reinventing everything, which led, actually, and I didn't mention this in my bio, a friend of mine introduced me to Tony Robbins, has a group, if you've heard of Tony Robbins.
Of course. Love him.
Mastermind.com. And so I did a mini course on his mastermind.com website called The Reinvention Formula that's available. Okay. And it's sort of an introduction to this idea of like, okay, how do we reinvent everything?
Yeah.
But for me, it really goes back to sitting in that college lounge in 1985 going, well, I'm going to reinvent myself right now.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, I've made the announcement. Now I can't be here in January.
We got to get cracking.
I got to do something right away. And same with this, I think the reinventing the music school, it's like, we don't have time to sit around and wait around and figure it out. This isn't going to be 2 weeks. It's going to be long term. So this process of a complete reinvention of the business and a reinvention of the industry, of how people want things to be now. I don't know that people want to go back to face-to-face stuff, even just permanently. It's kind of nice being at home.
Yeah. Well, I personally am not for that, but
Yeah.
you know, to each his own. I'm a people person. I like to be
Oh, for
like
sure.
I y- yes, but I think that you are correct that people do need to have options, and it's great that you've written something that allows them to not be full of anxiety, knowing that they do have other options to
Yeah,
continue to run and operate their business. But that's
sure.
very important. So you're doing a lot of great things just across the board. So actually, I want to go back to your Academy of Music and Arts. So how has COVID affected you, and how have you like reinvented yourself to serve your students?
Uh, I mean, there were a few things. I think when it initially hit, I remember it was, I went into the office Monday and this was back in March. And I looked at my manager, Andres, and I was like, I don't think we can open today. It's like 1 o'clock. We probably need to call, I don't know, because there was this idea that COVID, and I'm not a COVID doubter. I want to make sure everybody knows that. I wear a mask everywhere I go and all that stuff. But I think there was that time where it's like, oh my God, this is everywhere. We're like wiping down light switches in rooms that are never used, right? So we closed and said, okay, we're going to figure out in the next couple of days how to do things online. And we really, I think, sincerely thought, okay, it's going to be 2 weeks that we're going to have to postpone stuff. And then we have a week of spring break, April 1st, April 2nd, we're going to be back to normal. And it just sort of kept going where, some things like, for example, our theater department, we can't have a group of 50 kids in a room.
Sure.
Even and we don't have a venue to perform stuff. So some of that got put on hold. Music lessons immediately went online and people seemed to like it. There were already a lot of people, like say famous musicians, famous guitarists, for example, who did Skype lessons. If you wanted to take lessons with the guitarist from Steely Dan 5 years ago, you could have done it. Back then they did it over Skype. So
Sure.
in the industry, there were already sort of people doing it. So for, I think, the music lessons, we adapted pretty quickly.
Good.
I think the staff just said, hey, look, we can do this with Spotify, sharing the audio. There's white screens. I can draw on the screen and write your lesson out. It's not perfect, but it's something that you can really do. Classes have been a little more difficult, but I think people have adapted to, say, dance classes online. Find an open space somewhere. Maybe it's on the patio.
That would be really difficult for me. I would have a hard time with that personally.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's like Peloton. If you see Peloton, it's you're on a bike and you're riding with
I think that's different because it's stationary. So what are the ages of your students?
We start as young as 2 years old, and we go through adults. It's different on every instrument. Piano, you might start at 3 or 4 years old. Guitar is usually about kindergarten, if you can get your hands around the guitar. Dance, we do Mommy and Me as young as 2 years old. Little artists as young as 3. Our summer camps, we have 3 to 5, ages 6 to 12, teen camps, and they run all summer. That was a real challenge this summer because, a lot of the vocal camps and stuff you can't really do in person because people are worried about super spreading and all that. So a lot of that we had to do online. But yeah, it has definitely been challenging, but it's one of those things you have to get up every day and, sort of rise to the challenge every day. You can't let it stop you.
So I'm reading that you are a coach for SCORE. What is SCORE?
So SCORE is part of the Small Business Association, and where I found out about SCORE was through my graphic designer friend who helped me design the Marketing During Tough Times book. I said, well, I need to set up this coaching business and publishing business as a separate company, and I called an attorney, and it was like $3,000, and I was like, kind of venting to her, and it's like, oh, like I want to do this, but it's like $3,000, and then with COVID, and you're trying to juggle the stuff, and she said, oh, call SCORE, it's part of the SBA, and they have volunteers on staff who will help you do things. So they hooked me up with an attorney who we did a Skype meeting like this, and he walked me through, and I filed my stuff for free. And I was really inspired by it. So I contacted them and said, hey, can I start coaching other people in small business, maybe who are starting up or who are in a similar industry, who maybe have a specific issue? Because usually you might say, well, whatever you're opening up, I know how to do this, this, and this, but I don't know how to do digital marketing. Or I don't know how to do, I'm trying to put together some kind of I don't know how direct mail works, or something that you don't know. So they hook you up with somebody and you coach them. You help them get over that hump, get over that thing to the next level of their business. And so it's a great service and it's free. All the coaches are volunteers. And it's awesome. Yeah, it's supported by the SBA, which is tax dollars. And it's one of those resources.
Did you provide me the link for that? Is that in here? I don't think it is.
I don't, I will put that on there. You can get it off I think it's on my Facebook page or SCORE. It's SCORE. .org, and they have local chapters around the United States. I think for this area, DuPage County, there's one out here, but there's hundreds and hundreds of locations across anywhere in the United States you're at. There's a score near you.
And so you are a coach for like any type of business, or
well, they match you up with whatever.
Oh, okay, I got you.
Like in my case, I didn't necessarily need a digital marketing coach. I needed an attorney to make sure my paperwork was right to become an LLC. Or you might need an accountant to help you set up your QuickBooks, and so they will get you going. Or at least tell you if you need to hire somebody, okay, so this is a bigger project. You need to hire someone and you need this, this, and this. Don't let them try to sell you this, this, and this.
I love that. This is some really great, valuable information and a valuable resource for anybody, anywhere. So thank you for that.
Yeah, it's a wonderful resource.
Yes. I mean, I would have liked to know that in some of my previous businesses, but you know, you live and you learn.
Yeah, I was thrilled. Yeah.
What's that?
When I found out, I was thrilled, and not only did it save me money, but I became then part of this network of coaches helping other small business people, and yeah, it's a great organization. So I'm very happy for it.
Wonderful. So what is next for you? Since now that we still are, did you reopen when they allowed people to reopen?
Sure. We have slowly but surely reopened. We started a gradual sort of soft reopening in June. So we started to say, okay, we're going to let people in. Instead of, because it used to be, we packed, not in a bad way, but it'd be 6, a bunch of students coming at 6, a bunch of students leave, and 6:30 the next group, and 7 next group. And so you had people coming in and out of lessons, 10 people with classes, 50 people arrive for the musical, and you can't do that. So now it's like, okay, someone's at 6 to 6:30, they leave, 10-minute break to clean the office, 6:45, someone else comes in. So it's a lot more spaced out. We actually made a video, and that was with 40 Stripes Design helped me do it, where we showed the parents, okay, here's what we're doing. We created a traffic pattern with a front exit, back exit. Here's all the precautions we're taking.
Sure.
Summer camps were good. We limited the size. Some people wanted to do online. But slowly but surely it's been coming back. And so I would say right now we're half online, half in person.
Good.
And it's legitimate to be nervous and it's legitimate to be afraid. And so we want everyone to be comfortable. And that includes the staff. Some of the staff are like, I'm not sure, because of their age or whatever.
Sure.
Whatever it is. My own daughter is a teacher. And, she was nervous. And she's like, I'd like to teach some stuff online and virtual. But yeah, it's definitely a big adjustment to that. And so we'll adjust. So we want everyone who comes in contact, whether you're an employee or whether you're a staff member or just, somebody out in the community who wants classes, we want them to feel safe, we want them to feel comfortable, and know that we're doing everything we can do to make
Sounds like you've been very nimble through this whole pandemic. Sure. That we've been experiencing, and that's really great. You're a great example for what business owners should do, and it seems like you're taking it in stride, and you've got great energy and a very positive attitude. So I love it.
Yeah. You have to keep that going. Yeah.
So really quick, why don't you share that with the audience? So if they're in the local area and they're close to to Westmont, right?
Yeah,
they're close to Westmont. Well, how can they find you? Just go ahead and drop your links, but I will also be posting them in the description of the episode as well.
Definitely, yeah. But if you're in the Westmont area or anywhere in that DuPage County area, academymusicandart.com. academymusicandart.com. We're at 350 East Ogden and Westmont. We've been at that address since 1993. We've been in that building.
Wow. Congrats.
You can find, if you're interested in the business coaching or any of the SBA or SCORE stuff, you can find me at chriswilsoncoaching.net, and I'll post those links in there. And there's all sorts of free resources and videos on my Facebook channel and my YouTube channel, and I'll put all those links in there. There's always some business tidbit, some business tip. Every day there's a post on Facebook and YouTube. So
I love it. What about your books? Are those available anywhere for purchase?
You can get The Marketing During Tough Times through my website. Yes.
Okay.
The musical reinvention is we're still reinventing. So, but yeah, The Marketing During Tough Times, and you can get a free chapter if you'd like to download a chapter for free. You can just go to my website and I will send you a chapter.
Awesome. What are some good words of wisdom or a piece of advice you'd like to leave with the audience for, let's just say, if they are wanting to pursue music or something in the arts, what would you like to leave with them before we wrap things up?
I think there's a couple of things. One is really believing in yourself that you can do this, taking it seriously. Like if you want to be a musician or you want to be an artist, you really need to be in love with the craft of doing it. So if you want to be a photographer, you better eat, sleep, and drink photography. It's got to be the most interesting, passionate thing in the world, because that will get you through maybe necessarily not making money right away, or not being, you might have to have a second job, or there might be something else you have to do. So that passion is like, it's the most interesting thing in the world. Like, you're not watching TV at night or watching Netflix. You're like playing with cameras because it's interesting.
Yeah.
So I think that's step one. Is it something you're truly passionate about? Can you do it all the time?
Yeah.
And really excel at it and be great? The other thing is, I think you really are the product of the three people you spend the most time with. So if you're around people who are your cheerleaders, my graphic designer, I've mentioned her, Laura Hoffman, she is on the same page with me. She's my friend, and she's like, yeah, you can do this. You can blah, blah, blah. And no, boy, I don't think so. Are you sure you should do that? Where all of a sudden you shrink. You can almost hear it, like, so you need people in your life who believe in you, say, yeah, you can do this. And, I see how you'd be great at this, but then they also will give you pointers. Hey, you know what? I read your book, and a couple paragraphs, what are you actually saying here? So they become like also an advisor, where they can help you. Oh, your idea is good, but I don't think it's as clear. I think it's more clear to you than it is to them. So you need people like that in your life. So find people in your life who share those things. You don't want people knocking you down or stealing your dreams. Find people who believe.
I mean, you should be having anybody in your life like that, period. Cut out all that negativity. Bye-bye.
Hey, Thanksgiving's coming up. You might find yourself sitting down with Uncle Bernie, and you might tell Uncle Bernie about your dreams, and Uncle Bernie might be like, that doesn't sound, I would never do that. You hear it, especially coming into the holiday season when you're around the family. Maybe you have a business card. I mean, all of a sudden there's people who might start knocking you down for whatever reason. You never know.
I find that if that happens, that you've allowed that to happen. So
for sure.
There has to come a point in your life where you have to be responsible on how you let people react to you and what you're talking to them about. So I have made, either you've made it so that they respect what you have to say, whether it's a crazy ass dream or you're going to be doing this or that. Or they're just going to be like, oh, ha, 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 you have another stupid idea.
Crazy,
really, you have to be responsible how you allow people to respond to you. So I'm sorry,
I completely agree with you. But then you also want to be the person who delivers. So you don't want to be the person who every 4 months has a crazy idea. You want to be the person, you want to be the person like I did, like when you say I wrote a book, it's like, here it is.
Yeah.
It's like
you don't want to be a fly by night. You don't want to be a fly by night. Like, I get it.
Did that back when I was at NIU, to kind of go full circle, I knew that I couldn't walk into the dorm room in January. Like, I had to somehow get to Boston without. I lived in a youth hostel, right? I didn't even know where to park my car. I mean, it was like crazy. But it was like, I knew when I laid down that line, like, I wasn't going to be here. If I was there in January, then it was like, oh man, now Chris is all talk.
So you are a man of integrity, and I think that's really good, because you said something, you did what you said, and like that's a character that I think a lot of people, they need to remind themselves that integrity is very important. So I do what I say what I do.
Definitely. Yeah.
So,
prove them wrong, and if they don't believe in you, if you do find yourself at Thanksgiving or Christmas and you're around people, family members, who maybe doubt you, prove them wrong. I mean, you make that be the thing. Say, oh, really? I'll see you at, at the Memorial Day party or 4th of July, and I'll tell you about my success. So then now you have to, you can prove them wrong.
Exactly. I love it. All right, Chris. Well, thank you so much for being a guest. We'll have to do like a follow-up after some of this craziness is passed, and find out what other crazy things you've gotten involved with, maybe another book. I don't know. We'll have to do a follow-up, but
absolutely, that'd be great.
I will definitely be putting all your links in the description, and that SCORE resource is very valuable, you guys. So if you are an entrepreneur seeking help, it's free advice, and I will put that link in there so you can reference it. But as always, you guys, this is your host, Deanna Kuempel of Label Free Podcast. To live your best life, you must live label free. I will be back soon with some more dynamic guests. Have an amazing day.